But yeah, I bought like a 6 case. Ooh, that's not even. That's not.
Wine glass.
Yo, that's like that's like 3 cups of wine. Cheers.
I'm having a happy hour. And then she goes, I want some banana. And then she pulls it.
Bye, Dan.
Hi, I'm Susie. I'm a software engineer in Seattle, US. I've been working in the field for 4 years now.
Susie is in Seattle right now. What time is it over there?
It's 5:10. I just got out of work.
Oh, okay. It is 9:11 a.m. here in Singapore. I wish I was drinking wine too, but I'm just drinking coffee. So yeah, maybe I like add a little bit something in there. So, Susie, I know you from internship. We had an internship together. You were in an engineering internship, and I was
Yes.
in the marketing team, and we got to be really good friends through our internship in San Francisco. And then later on, you moved to Seattle.
I think I went down to San Francisco. I was working in Bellevue office back then, and then they drove. Remember, they flew me down, and then you flew up like once, right? Yeah.
The many perks of working at a tech company.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, I think what would be helpful is for you to explain how you got into engineering and maybe talk about like what you studied in school and kind of your journey figuring out like this was a field you wanted to go into.
I graduated high school in South Korea. Came here to actually become to work in international relations industry. So I was interested in more United Nations work. I was interested in diplomatic issues and stuff like that. I was in that major for 2 years when I figured out that was not my passion. I was overly stressed out. And then my math instructor, my professor was actually like, hey, like you should try computer science. And I was like, I don't know if I like that. Back then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna major in business because it was a very popular and popular major back in Korea, and it gave a lot of options for me to have after bachelor's. But I did try and I liked, so I continued to strive, graduated.
Hmm. In Korea, like kind of side tangent,
Mm-hmm.
are there a lot of women who go into engineering? Like, because you know your
No.
professor said that. Okay, is it? Would you say the discrepancy between like male to female ratio is like even stronger there in Korea than in the US already? Or what are your thoughts now that you're in the US?
It's very rare. I feel like so in Korean education system, if you're in social sciences versus natural science major, they already divide you into it after middle school, and so you take different classes per se. And if you are in natural science, a lot of girls I tend to had interact with
Mhm.
were interested in nursing, medical, but engineering itself was not a very stronger or like bigger mainstream within the students. It's even worse in Korea when you go into college. The ratio, male to female ratio, is a lot worse. So that's why I never really thought that I wanted to go into engineering.
To kind of like touch upon that too, my friend went to Berkeley and she was a female engineer.
Mm-hmm.
This was back like 5, 6, maybe like more because she's older. But she said that she was like one of the two girls in a 100, 200 class full of males. And she was like, holy, like she was like, she felt so out of place. No, I think that's great. You went into engineering. How did you prepare yourself for that though? Like, did you take classes? Like, did you go to a boot camp?
I was in second calculus. I didn't need a second calculus because I was not going to any natural science, but I really liked the professor and I was good at it. So I was taking it. And then he goes, you need to take the third. And I was like, I guess I will take it. And one of the strongest drive for me to go to this computer science was that I liked math. It was not my strongest appetite when I grew up in Korea. Coming to college, the explanations and the logistics in behind, because I think on a side note, okay, it's a little sidetrack. I think the teaching method for mathematics in Korea is more memorizing rather than understanding the principles
Mm.
and like pushing you to logically thinking,
Mm.
which I came here and it was there were people who could answer my questions, why this is that and where is this coming from, because that definitely makes interesting for. So math was a really good motivation for me to go into something science. And I took the very first computer science class, which was like learning Java.
Was it hard? Like, so I've never
It
touched
was
code,
very
like ever.
it's very coming from a country and a background that you never thought that how your phone works or how you use your website. It was something very hard to understand because
Mm.
like, okay, computer, there's an OS, I guess, and it opens an app. Like, why, like, how does this comes to a very small parts that you never thought that you there were existed before.
Mm.
So it was harder for me to understand, but once I understood it, it just like blew my mind.
How can like how do you can you like use an analogy of like what coding is for those who can't like visually see it, right? Because like when you see code, it's just like like jumble, and is it like
Uh-huh.
memorization? You're piecing things together to
It's
some.
like learning, like coding is like learning a new language.
Okay.
Like the part that a lot of like for me to have a hard time was where was this language used? Now, like you can understand how to print out hello world in a console,
Yeah.
but how does that apply to everyday usage that I interact with and work right now? Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, I think when you say like it's like a new language, would you say one thing you need to know is the memorization part of it?
yes, yes. It's like as if like learning a new language, you understand the grammatical structure behind of coding, like
Mhm.
not necessarily grammatical, but some structure behind it.
Mhm.
Understanding what words, vocabs to
Mm.
use in proper times. But it doesn't. It I think it is more than just a memorization, is because as I said, if you understand where it is going to be used and how it's going to be used,
Mhm.
it pushes you to further and like motivates you to do something more than just reading and writing code.
Everyone keeps telling me to try it, and I'm like, I'm scared. But maybe one day. So what's the worst and best part of being an engineer? Like being in that role in industry?
Before COVID was the flexibility of work. A lot of the times, the engineering positions only care if your get done on time or not. It gives you work, like it's easier for you to strive work-life balance. I think that was the best part of it, besides money compensation. In terms of fulfillment, you're doing like you can always start a new thing or seeks to new improvement at your desire, and people, at least in the work environment that I worked with, people tend to stimulate that. They appreciate your effort to work with you. So I think that would be my best part of being an engineer. In terms of worst part of being an engineer is it gets older. First 2 years is easy, are learning a ton. You are you always want to do some more. You strive to do a lot of the things. It may be true for every other workforce, but I think by year 4, year 5, that's when things get not as like new and something. Because like a lot of the times, if you talk to a lot of engineers, at least for my experience, is
Yeah.
that you want to solve problems. You want to have that feeling of accomplishments. That is pretty big part of your work excitement.
Yeah.
So I think that's when a lot of people, of my friends too, are trying to move to a different place,
Mm.
because then you're in a different code base, different infrastructure, different architecture, uh, similar problems but different solutions, or different problems but similar solutions. That's how you keep growing. You can always grow.
I had some engineer friends tell me there's also like I guess two paths that they generally see engineers take, right? One is like there's different levels or tiers of being an engineer, like level 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your compensation obviously grows while you become like the best like engineer, like at the cream of the crop of the company. And then other engineers I've seen or discussed, they go into like product management or into like a leadership role.
For me personally, I want to go into leadership. I have always been wanting to. So the efforts that I made in my 4 years of career is really rely on or have somewhat components to it. Um, when you say best engineer, it's when I think it is engineers who want to continue to like solve problems, and engineers who have preference
Yeah.
solving problems and not dealing with people,
Mhm.
like have more tendency to solve problems and making engineering decisions, tend to go to architecture, to tech leader, or to CTOs, and then goes into management or product manager role, because they want to strengthen the bond between
Mm.
the bridge. Because back in a decade ago, engineering is such a new thing, so that everybody is adapting as we go. So I think that's why you see transitions in between PMs to engineering, engineering to PMs, engineering going to be engineers, and management.
It's funny that you mentioned like 10 years ago, like being an engineer was very different than what it is being now. Like now everyone wants to go into engineering, right? It's like it pays
Mm-hmm.
like there's flexibility, you could work in a very innovative company. And like maybe 10
Mm-hmm.
years ago everyone wanted to be like a banker or like in finance, right?
Like investments, yeah, finances, yeah.
Like be a doc.
Designer was a huge thing.
What was like the biggest misconception you had about engineering?
Everybody would be like boring.
Engineering, you guys are so dynamic though. I like I feel
Yes.
I don't know, I don't want to like say all of you guys are like this, but I feel like all of you guys are like low key sassy because you guys are so smart.
Yes, yes, that's what I've heard so many times. I hate the times that I get to be portrayed being sassy, but I think it's I got it. Okay? Like I remember before going to some computer science, like I don't want to go to computer science. And like I sometimes I think a lot of the times if you're in engineering, I think you want a very precise of statements, like situations or problems or causes and effect. Like they want a specific wordings, and you want to have that.
Mhm.
And the first intuition that you get after and going into engineering is to solve the problem. So it's harder, it's very common for engineers to have that. What do you mean? Like, can you explain
Like
that one more time? I don't think you're using the words that the correctly. Like,
they don't do it intentionally. Like they're not trying to be
no, they
mean.
are
They're
trying to,
yeah,
yes,
they're trying to
they're trying
solve
to
something for you.
understand. Yes, yes, they're trying to understand the situation like correctly, because I don't know. Like it's been a while, but I've heard that before. So it's like it's funny you mentioned it.
Yeah. I was like, oh. I mean, I think it's a good trait. It's funny though. I really love all my engineering friends. You guys are funny.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think is like the one ultimate skill that you need to have to be a good engineer, right? Like, do you need to know how to type fast? Do you need to have like a good memory? Like, what's like the one ultimate skill? Yeah.
I think one ultimate skill is that you don't give up. I think it's just weird because, like, memorization, it's pretty common for biology or medicals to have that checked out because they have a lot of contents to do it, to memorize and to work with. But
Yeah.
for engineers, like, your problem is different. Like, software engineers specifically is like, we're innovating. There are fields and products every day that is new.
Mhm.
So you're given a problem that is like not as common, but you want to have a solution for it, and that's your everyday job. It could be a smaller bug, but you want to solve that. That's a key point, like key essential thing that you have for your career, because you will never get task that doesn't need that. If you don't give up and you strive to solve a problem, I think you will succeed in engineering, and you will keep rejuvenate throughout the career.
Yeah, you mentioned that, don't give up. I think that's a really good answer. How long, like, when someone's trying to solve a bug, right, or a feature or something, like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the longest it's taken you to solve something? Like, would it be like a day, a week, right? Because like the scope of like a project that big, right? Sometimes it's like time, like you need to solve it now, or it's like something than just like a feature. It's like there's so much going on in the back end that you have to fix. So what's been the longest?
It varies, but like the bug that I once worked with, where it's not
Mhm.
continuously, like it can be regenerated, but it doesn't generate it every time, but every so often enough that you want to fix.
Yeah.
Those times that you are actually trying to pinpoint what is the problem is was consuming a ton of time for me, um, and eventually it was a sum throttling issue.
Mhm.
So it it's hard to say what days. It could be a sprint. I've had a project that goes for 2 sprints or more. Um, I've had like projects in when back in college that I slept for 4 hours for like 2 weeks to
Mhm.
finish it. Um, I think that if that quantify
Mhm.
how long that you should expect, like it's different because like I'm in R&D side
Mhm.
too. So we are trying to solve a problem that is like unique, or it could not be the like solution or not. So
Mhm.
we had like we were playing with Amazon AWS services
Mhm.
where, oh, okay, blue green deployment would be an answer to our architecture. And we strive to have that for 6 months to a year. And
Mhm.
we decided, oh, guess what? That's not the answer. Then you drop it and then you go to find another solution for your own
Mhm.
infrastructure architectural problems. So in the long term, it could be a long investment. So yeah.
Yeah, that's hard because you don't know when the end is. You just have to keep solving,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's why I think being resilient is really important at the job.
Yeah, that would be hard. I think for me, my personality is like I like to wrap things up. Like, okay, this is done. This is done. This is done. I would be like, I can't figure this out. Thanks for your answer. That makes sense. Why did you choose to work in Seattle and not in San Francisco?
Oh, this is a bit personal. I don't think necessarily engineering point,
Oh,
but I had my friends are here. I had my like family here. Back then, I didn't think that like I wouldn't be successful without a support group.
mm,
So but now I have so many friends in San Francisco, so who
you
knows?
do. Like, well, I was there, but usually, yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, the major tech hubs right now would be like what, like Seattle?
San Francisco. New York is another thing, I think. Bay Area. So like San Francisco and Seattle and New York. Like my boyfriend was actually in software engineering. He was in job search for software engineering, and Seattle. Those three are the top cities that I would choose from. Not only because good compensation, they also have infrastructures around the engineering side.
Mm.
So what I mean by that is more career opportunities, more connections for you to have grow with.
Interestingly enough, too, I heard that like Denver and Austin were also new like growing tech hubs.
I've
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard of that. I positions that he was looking into have like Texas and Denver. I don't know Denver or Texas, but Seattle has it's easier for you to go around, fly out.
Yeah, Seattle does kind of remind me of San Francisco sometimes, right? Like by how
Mm-hmm.
small it is, but how dense it is. Like even San Francisco is
Mm-hmm.
like 7 by 7 miles, and yeah, everyone just kind of works or within that space. What tech companies do you think are the best to work for in
In Seattle,
Seattle? Yeah, dun dun dun.
like da da da.
Dun, dun, dun.
Amazon if you're just out of the college because
Yeah.
you have so much more like
Energy. Oh,
stamina.
okay. Wait, sorry. This is funny, but Susie, I heard that people like, so my friends who worked at Amazon were like, oh, the only benefit you get from Amazon is like bananas, right? They're like, they don't even
So
pay us. We get bananas.
like there's SLU campus, right? And every corner in between the buildings, they're having a banana booth before COVID. And this like Asian mommies, they have like this huge basket, and then she goes, "I want some banana," and then she pulls it, and she walks away.
Those are for the engineer. That's for the like the people who work at AWS, right?
Yeah, but for everybody, I think is they're just handing it off to everyone. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be an Amazon employee. So they get
Take home.
take them on.
Oh my God. That's funny. Sorry.
I think it's just also another thing is like Amazon is like competitive work environment. So it's if you're in early 20s, I think it's easier for you to go in and have fun
Mm.
for a couple of years. But but besides beyond that, I don't know if that will like it would be a promising like place to work for me. Um, Google is having a um, bigger campus now. Um, Facebook, so all those like big companies, like big five,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Dang.
So Fang, but other than that, I heard that Redfin in Seattle offer like free lunch.
Mhm. Hmm.
Expedia had built a whole new campus, and I think if I heard it right, they're trying to get it dog friendly because
Okay.
they have their own like parking space and everything.
Yeah.
Microsoft was a big one, um, but it's a little out of the Seattle downtown area. But if you're having a family, Microsoft perks are pretty good. Like
Mhm.
my coworkers' spouses work there, and they have their own like summer camp kind of thing for the kids.
That's nice.
Yeah, they get to go play in Bounty House on the weekends every time. Like in summer, they have like ice cream handouts and stuff.
What about like startups or like maybe smaller companies that aren't?
Valve,
Which one?
but Valve is a game company, but they don't really hire people.
Okay.
But it's a very like they're very like skilled software seniors in the company,
Yeah.
but they take them to Hawaii for a retreat.
Oh,
And a lot of startups are there are actually increasing number of startups in like first hill area, like international district area.
it's called First
And
Hill. First Hill.
yeah, First Hill and then like International District like
Mhm.
area. No, sorry. It's a Pioneer Square area.
Yeah. Is there any companies you wouldn't recommend working for? Or what you've heard around the grapevine? Like, oh,
I think Amazon
yeah.
is not the place that I would recommend for a long term
Hmm.
because their work ethics and even the projects are very interesting. They don't design the place like work environment for you to grow or to be fulfilling and to sustain your engineering appetite.
Yeah, I see, I see. Okay. So I think I mean most people probably go in for like the name, right? Like the brand of it.
Yes.
And then when they go in, they realize like the runway to become better or like a better engineer is not really that there, right? So there's no
Mhm.
like, structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would assume that like engineers when they find that out, they're like, ah, like this isn't like stimulating me. Like, yeah.
It's harder because like Amazon also give you a big buck.
Yeah.
Like once you tied into that, it's just like it's really hard to see beyond that, I think.
Juicy.
Juicy for
Juicy.
sure.
Juicy.
It's not my company.
All right, so advice to young graduates who are looking to work at like B2B companies, maybe in
Mhm.
engineering. What is like a good salary for like an entry level engineer, like their first year in Seattle? And is it competitive with San Francisco as well?
Yes and no. Like Amazon wouldn't compete your offer.
Mhm.
Like Google, I've heard that they would. But I think generally, if you get out of the college right now in Seattle
Mhm.
with a computer science degree, would be 100K.
Yeah, you're like
Mhm.
pretty much making six figs like in the beginning.
In the beginning, yeah.
That's good. Okay, what skill sets are like especially attractive to hiring teams then, like as a fresh grad?
Fresh grad, I think it's very repetitive, but being able to solve problems. So lead coding, interview technical questions. If you ace that, that's
Mhm.
a like a strong candidate. Yeah.
So like in interviews, I know you guys also, yeah, you have to like do technical questions, right? Like in your interviews. Does your personality matter at all either? Like what if you're really good at taking questions but you're just like not a nice person? Do you guys care or do you take all of it into account?
I think we do, but um like I have a really good, I was one of the good personality, like I was a very had high EQ,
Mhm.
a very well-rounded candidate, but without a strong technical skills or being not being able, like if you being able to prove that you can think logically and reach to a solution
Yeah.
um, is really good part. Another, besides from a good personality, communication skills,
Mm.
I think be how you handle stress when the problem is frustrating is really important. Do you shut down or do you like get upset? Do you just like black out? Like it happens because like you're in an interviewee and this literally like this one question is one like either you're going further or you're not getting anywhere. So it like I understand the stress,
Mhm.
but being able to handle and because like sometimes they ask you the hard questions, they want you to get frustrated, they want to see how you handle that stress because like in your day-to-day job that's you because like we have to meet the deadline, right? So
Interesting because you, yeah, I think in work, in life, there are things that you just cannot run away from, right? Like you need,
yes.
like, even though this job is, a lot of it is like focusing on solving issues or solving things
Mhm.
logically, you still have to communicate your thought process or like prove your
Yes.
point. And
Yes.
yeah, so that's an interesting point. Yeah. And
Mhm.
kind of like intimidating. It's like, I can see,
It
all the
is, it is intimidating.
yeah, like the engineering panels, like let's give him a really hard one, like him or her a really hard question and see how he or she breaks down. It's like,
I
oh,
hope they don't. Uh, but like that's called a bar raiser. So
cool.
there is actually an interview panel who is actually putting you in a difficult position.
Yeah.
Um, I think if you're reached to that point, you should also give yourself a really good. You didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Um, how you handle the stress, or like how did the bar raiser saw your handling stress it's like it's different expectations. So like yeah,
Um,
but there is a bar raiser.
oh, I learned something new. So the bar raiser,
Oh yeah,
the interviewer who's purposely asking you a more difficult question. Okay.
yes.
Look.
Or like it could be like a bar raiser, not necessarily an interviewer, but a question too.
Oh, okay. Gotcha, gotcha.
Mhm.
Ah, I feel like I'm learning the insider trading of engineering. Hope this is, like information. Your personal experience or your thoughts. Do you think engineers should work at a larger company first, like an enterprise, to develop a stronger foundation in coding or engineering? Or, does it really matter, like if they worked at a startup first and then later on a bigger company? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I think size of the company doesn't really matter, but I think what you as a like a interviewee who is going to spend your how many years at a company is that one, do you need to figure out if the team that you're going to work with or the company that you're working for have an engineering like a really good engineering work ethic. Do they have a strong leader, smart leader who can and guide you to different problem solutions, but also pushes you to grow? Do they have hard sales or product driven engineering? A lot of the companies, any other B2B companies, they have a product driven, but how density, like how dense they put you in a spot that, oh, you in an engineering point, your like infrastructure problem need to be solved before meeting the deadline, but would you be working on that like in a rush because you have to meet the deadline? That it essentially, I meant, like, in summary, I think you should be able to use what as a candidate, you should interview your company too. Are they going to provide you good, strong skills that you would want to keep and grow?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of it has to do with like leadership. Because I guess when you're interviewing, you also should interview your hiring team or hiring
Yes.
manager to see if this is a leader I want to follow. If there is a trajectory for me at this company, regardless if it's a startup or an enterprise, like a bigger conglomerate.
Yes. So like if you're working for a startup, you're definitely stopping to different like projects. You're definitely going to work on one component to the other, back to from like front engineering to mobile to like back end. Like you're going to jump around a lot of, like, we call it, you're going to wear a lot of hats, right? And that's going to happen if you are at a startup with good engineering like engineering work ethics and team that who strive that. Also, like larger companies, if you are going to there, you can strive a very specific or even like master at one stuff. Like it could be infrastructure, it could be front engineering, you could do entire web app for next 2 years. Like that would be pretty exciting for you. You wouldn't have to work about like the DevOps or building a work environment like CLI, setting up SDK, like what are the good stuff. Like that would have already configured for you to work at a stable virtual machines or like work setting that you could focus on. So there's a good and bad, but it comes down to one thing: you need to have a good engineering driven team. I don't know, I say it, I think it sounds a bit selfish in a product standing point, but having a good engineering work ethic, I don't know how to put it, there is no exact word for it, but if you having that setting really clears up a lot of bogs in between like departments decisions. It directly hits, in my opinion, the teammates.
That's a good answer. I think I agree with that, like honestly, because it's like where you're going to spend the rest, or not the rest of your life, but like the majority of your life. So the people you work with, like the environment, it has to be something that you're comfortable with and that you can continue growing in. How do engineers continue to keep themselves like smart and up to date with technologies? Like, do you guys read a lot of like coding books? Like what websites do you guys look at? Like what are resources that you would find helpful to learn things? Reddit?
Reddit. I think for my case, I read like refactoring book every once in a while. I also like going like different conferences. I also push myself like literally this year, trying to do new stuff, like new components that I have never touched before. Doing that keeps you get to know your own like architecture of your product, but also pushes you to do something more. So I think reading and taking courses another one, but really day-to-day job, if you have an opportunity to do work on something new, that definitely keeps me like updated. Because like back in year 2 I was like, oh my god, what is this? Like we were all transitioning from AWS, right? From like data center to AWS RDS and stuff like that, and I learned a ton by just working tasks.
Yeah, like through application. So
yes, like literally, yeah.
Mm.
Also, engineers are lazy. They're not going to study. If it is like study, if it is study, it doesn't really hit you until you don't feel like you get it until you do it.
I see. All right. Now we're gonna go into the random questions. The
Okay.
random questions that I personally want to know
Okay.
about anything.
I'm glad that I had this.
I
I
saved
can blame this.
I saved the best for last. Yeah, so I want to know about like the hierarchy in engineering. What is like um, the general viewpoint of how engineers kind of like size each other up or kind of look at each other from like team to team,
It's
right?
it's funny. It's funny you ask because like I think every engineer has a different standpoint, but those who I respect
Yeah.
will would give me an answer that I agree with is which is um, all engineering is important. Like in like larger eyes, like product is important, customer support is important, like leadership is different, like important, like every part is important. But I had somebody who was pretty damn smart and pretty like leader in leadership, like technical leader,
Yeah.
who told me like his team would be the best, like the most important that only matter in engineering.
Uh-huh. What team was that?
Ah,
What team was that? Or which
infrastructure.
infrastructure? Okay. I see. No, but I agree with you actually. Yeah, I think you're right because every function or every unit of a company is important to keep it going, right? I do think that like because it's tech, a lot of it is like it's like the chicken or the egg, right? Like you have your product needs to be good, right? You have to have a really strong product, and that comes with having a really strong engineering team. But if you don't have a good, or I don't know, if you don't have someone selling the product, well, okay, no, foundation is having a good product, I would say. Yeah. But if you don't have someone selling it or like marketing it, or you have like people ops or people hiring, right? It's yeah. So I think that the beginning startups, the product is always important. So the
Yes,
engineering is important. But okay, good answer, Susie.
yes.
I was like,
I saved myself.
I know, I was like with the wine, I was like, get some. It's okay, no, but I do. Yes, we love all engineers equally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard that engineers don't like PMs. What can you tell me about that?
It's really hard to understand
Yeah.
PM. I think it took some time for me to understand what PM's role. A lot of the times, the misconception that engineers don't like PM is because at the very beginning of our session, I think I mentioned you engineers strive to have an exact wording and
Mm,
exact understanding of a problem. But from a product standing point to an engineering part, the transition is not as smooth.
mm,
So, like, if my product manager says, like, "Hey, Susie, I need this application like adapted by this," and then I would say, "Okay, that's great." But if he says, "I need that done," like now, it's like, "Okay, why?"
yeah.
Why? Is there any other priority? Or I think better example would be I had my PM once told me, hey, I want to have this project mapped out.
Mhm,
And I said, okay, I agree. And we were working on it. And later we found out that he didn't configure one part of the project.
mhm,
So that was when like we had to revert the changes.
mm,
So if you are upfront and like I think it was more of a I want you to have a like better understanding on your side before having it to discuss with me kind of the thing.
mm,
We like it was he was like younger, so it was fine, but like we talked it out. But I think even before like PMs, a lot of like ambitious PMs want to have a lot of stuff done.
yeah.
But to do that, you want to talk to engineers who could configure it like precisely.
Yeah.
Like you want to map out each component. So I
Mm,
think that's a good way to put it. Like I think engineers want to have a like a specific reasons like like this product is coming from here, this component needs to be done, but in this manner, stuff like that.
Yeah, I can kind of see that as like PMs being like they have to be like diplomats because they're not just working with like the engineering team, they're working with like design, marketing, sales. See them at this like table and the table is like circular and they're always just like trying to talk to every single team and make things work. And then I see engineers being like, you need to give me exactly what you need so I can help you roadmap, right?
Yeah, it's harder because like PMs want to talk to different component, the different department, like trying to figure out the details while engineers work on that time. So it's like it saves the time, right? But it's like engineers cannot work without details.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
that's true. Our last question to wrap this up. Well, what is like the most valuable thing you've learned about yourself or just in general in engineering? Like your main takeaway from this industry or career?
What is your main takeaway?
From myself, from my career. I think for me, it's more of like my role can be very, or my role like evolves. Because right now I work in like content or like community management. It evolves a lot. Right? I don't think I realize it's like, oh, I don't always have to be like pigeonholed into a specific role or things like that. I think even like being able to come from San Francisco to Singapore, I also realized like opportunity is so vast. Like I don't have to always follow a trajectory given to me, even within marketing too.
My main takeaway is that I like it. It's my main takeaway.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know, Am. There's so many. Like it's also feel like I keep growing every year. Every year I strive to like achieve something else
Mhm.
within the industry.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still growing.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe just like a reflection of like, I mean, you can even do like a reflection of how much you've grown over the
Mhm.
past like 4 or 5 years of being in engineering, right? Like, what were like maybe what were like characteristics or traits that you really developed while working in engineering?
Ooh,
Yeah.
um, like I I was when I started my job, I was pretty like timid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like in social events, I am me, but in when it comes to work, I am like development setting, I like stiff up because I don't want to make mistakes. Um, but now I ask questions. I ask for new projects. I strive um, to do more, and I think that's a really good improvement for me for the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's
Mhm.
also like a fear that a lot of people have, right? They don't want to be wrong or they don't want to make mistakes. But I think if you're able to fail like small and fail quickly, then that's how you learn, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you too. Yeah, I think it just comes with like application and age. You become more
Yeah,
like
I think
wiser.
so. Yeah. Yeah, right?
It does,
I
right?
feel like it's not I feel like it's not just like one industry. Like you just like in your career of 4 to 5 years, you come to a point that
Yeah,
is like us, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. I feel like I do see you like since I've met you too, like a long time ago when we were still college students. Yeah, like I would say, I mean, you're kind of the same person, but you've developed into a more like wiser, like
Yeah.
yeah, right? Like you just, yeah, I think it's like the aura, the energy. It's just you're more like wiser. Yeah, and I hope I am too. Bye
Yeah, you are too. It's like, cause like I remember we were just giggling about like in happy hour, we wanted to go like travel. We still do, but I think like life in general, like we became wiser. Like I love the fact that we can have like different sorts of discussions like in life, like
Mhm.
improvement or projects. Like this is the time that like even this one was like one of our talk, like we one of our just syncing up, right? So it's like I get to write because of you. I get to like travel alone kind of
With Emily to
with
Spain on
Emily.
a random. Wait, what? Why did we? I don't remember like what was like. Oh, we should go to Spain. And then we went to
Oh, dude,
Spain. I don't know.
I was like,
I-
hey, Am, long time no see. How was Bali alone? Oh, are you going to Bali alone? Yeah, I broke up with my boyfriend, so I want to go alone. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's good. And then I was like, yeah, I think I'm thinking of Barcelona. I've never been to Barcelona. Let's go. I think that was the most like spontaneous time I've ever been.
Yeah, that was fun. That was last year, right?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Yeah. No, not last year. I think it's
Wasn't
2 years. Oh, last year. Yeah, last year. Because like I saw it on Google Photos.
remember we were like at a cafe, or no, we were at a like hostel or something, and we were writing on napkins talking about what we were gonna do with our
Dude,
lives.
I have that photo.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I look at it, it's like, this is not gonna happen in COVID.
You know. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I think I have it on like my Instagram for like finance Instagram, but send me yours. Maybe I can add it to
Yeah.
this video.
Yes.
Anyway, do you have any last words for our?
Wait, I thought we were done recording.
I'm kidding. I can edit it out. Don't worry. I'll probably add the funny parts though.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words? Any inspiring last words?
Inspiring
For the future of our
words.
youth?
Like if you are working in the United States as a software engineer, I think congrats to you. You've done an awesome job going into the field and pushing yourself through it. If you're going to be a software engineer, or if you're coming to the United States for workforce, I think this video or my interview would be helpful. If anything, I'm open to like connect and help you out in any way. So contact Emily.
Yeah. How should I link them to you if they have any questions?
Oh, LinkedIn?
LinkedIn? Okay. I can add something in the caption if you want, but if that's too like
Open. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get a dick pic from LinkedIn.
I know, right? On LinkedIn, LinkedIn messaging. Actually, no, but people use LinkedIn for like the wrong reasons sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do something for like
Oh, maybe they can comment on your channel,
okay, yeah.
and then you can give them my like contact.
Thanks for watching. Thanks, Susie, for spending time with me to talk about all things engineering. If you're interested in more of these career interviews, then like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks, Susie, and talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Em.
Bring Teddy here. Make Teddy say
I think he's okay. Let's see.
add Teddy in the video. Teddy! Hi, Teddy.
Bye, Teddy.
Hi,
Bye, Em. Bye.
Hi, Teddy.
Doesn't want to say hey.
He's like, I know, he's so sassy. Just like, oh, cute. Hi, Teddy. Hi, Teddy. Oh, hi, Teddy.
I think he's getting sick.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, but thanks, Susie, for doing this with
Yes.
me. Yay.
Bye.